Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome back to BB's Customs. I'm Rich, and today we're going to finally finish our front end swap on the GS. Okay, so where we left it last time, I just put these forks through a rebuild process and discovered that this one had a nice dent in the inner tube, which means that it's shot. You can't fix that. The options were to either replace this tube, which was a lot of money, or replace the fork, which was a lot of money, or replace both forks, which was actually cheaper. So that's what I did. So before we get too far into it, I would like to really thank Abbey Motorcycles Limited. They've got a store on eBay. I will put a link into the description below this video because they really got me out of a bind. I got these fully working, just rebuilt by myself, new replacement front forks for a very reasonable price. They are much better condition overall. Yeah, so I was really lucky to find these. These forks are actually becoming quite hard to find, which is a good thing because, you know, a bit of rarity, it's quite nice, but it's also a pain because when things like this happen, it's a nightmare to get replacements. But never mind, we've got it now. So first job of today is to take these old ones off and put these ones on. Okay, so now that I got the forks on, which was really nice and easy, good start, the next thing I want to do is just swap out these bar risers, because these ones came with the yoke. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm just not really a fan of all the curves and shape on it. I want this to look a bit like chunkier, if you know what I mean. The logo is also on the top, which I don't really like. I just wanted some plain ones. So I'm going to take these off and replace them with these, which look very similar, apart from they're much bigger and squarer, a bit boxy. I quite like that. So I'm going to quickly zip these off, put these on, get the handlebars on, and then we'll move on to rebuilding the bearings in the front wheel. Right, so now that those are off, I'd just like to give a little message to the person who drilled through these and put these risers on in the first place. If you ever get the opportunity to do this again, please don't, because honestly, you don't know how to use a drill. I mean, the holes in the top of this are disgusting. They're not even round. You've managed to drill a square hole with a pistol drill. I'll just show you what I mean. This is probably some of the worst holes I've ever seen. That out of the way. Okay, so here we go. Look at that. That is some quality craftsmanship right there. This one's not too bad, but this one, I mean, what, did you use a masonry bit when you drilled this hole? I mean, what? It's only aluminium. What the hell's going on? Let me just turn you around. if you are looking at doing this yourself and drilling holes in a top yoke, then you know the normal method of doing it is mark out where you want them to go, put a little centre pip in there so that your drill locates, and go through with different size drill bits. Start off with, like, I don't know, a 3mm drill bit to get a hole through where you want it to go, then move up to, say, a 6, and then to a 9, and then maybe to a 10 or a 12, depending on what size your threaded your bolt's going to be, your threaded bar. Because I suspect what this guy's done is just gone straight in with any drill bit and just wiggled it around to make the hole the right size. I mean, it's something I'm going to have to bear in mind, because later on I may end up replacing this top yoke with a better one, to be honest, and drilling the holes again myself, because that's just shoddy and I'm not sure I want it on my bike. So we'll carry on for now and cross that bridge when we come to it later on. Okay, now that I've got the bars on, I've got the risers on and all bolted in place, you can really see how much of a mess this guy has made of putting these holes in. I mean, if I quickly get a ruler on here, I'm not sure how well you're going to see that, but if I come straight out to there, that is about 24mm from the front edge of that to where it crosses this line. If I do it on this one, it's 17. So this riser is, let's say 24 to 17 is 7mm forwards compared to this one, which means that these bars are at a huge angle that way to where the forks are. So if your front wheel is pointing straight forwards, your bars are positioned as if you're turning right, which, I mean, this, I hope he sees the video and I hope he feels ashamed of what he's done, because I mean, that's shocking, really. That's not right, and I'm really glad that I found it before I actually got this thing back on the road, because I mean, that's just dangerous. It's not right. So this yoke is definitely going to be replaced at some point. We'll get another one, I'll drill it out properly, we'll mark it all up, drill it out, and I'll show you how to do it, because doing it like this should be, well, it's criminal. Shouldn't be allowed. Okay, so now that that rant's over, we'll move on to sorting out the front wheel. This is, I thought it was a completely empty ZX7 wheel, but it's not. It's actually got a bearing at the back. All these stickers on here, these Go Faster stripes, they're going to go. I don't like them. I have got some bits to put on it already. I've already mocked one up on this side. So this is a nice wavy EBC brake disc. I've got one to go on the other side with some nice flash titanium bolts to hold it on, because, I mean, you know, why not? Titanium's pretty cool. First thing I need to do is take this disc back off, take this old crappy bearing out of here, and then start rebuilding. I've got a new set of bearings to put in, some new like grease and oil seals to put in, a spacer bar to go in the middle, a speedo drive, and then we can get this on the bike, which we won't do, and I'll tell you why at the end. Right, so we're going to get this bearing out. If both bearings were in, then you'd have to use a bearing extractor to just pop it out, but because the other side is totally empty, I'm just going to turn it upside down and I'm going to give it a few taps, similar to how I got the headstock bearings out. I'm going to put a big bolt down there and just smack it out with a hammer. Okay, so we've got our bearing out. What I forgot to show you before is that inside this, before you take the bearing out, you've got a circlip which you need to take out. Now these have got these little notches in just here, so if you get something behind it you can bend it out and just get some pliers on it and pull them out. They are single use, obviously, you can't put that back in. So here in front of me I've got 2 new sets of bearings, a new oil seal. This is the speedo drive, so that goes in this side into there like that. Is it? No, into there like that. And then that will rotate with the wheel and drive the speedo mechanism. I've got this, which is a spacer which goes in the centre of there, and that's so when you do your axle bolt up, you don't compress the bearings. This is what's going to keep the bearing chases from sort of like trying to be pushed out the centre of the bearing. And 2 new circlips to hold it all together. So what we shall do first is, starting on the non-speedo side, we're just going to give this a bit of a clean out, get the new bearing in, get the circlip in, and the oil seal, and then turn it over and start work on the other side. You have to do this side first because the other side doesn't have a shoulder on the inside for the bearing to go in. So if you put the bearing in that side, it's very easy to just push it all the way through and then it's inside your hub, which luckily, oh no, this wheel doesn't have it. So if that bearing went inside there, you'd be knackered. You wouldn't be able to get it back out. So yeah, don't do that. Okay, so what we've got in here is just on this inside edge there are some nice like sharp rough bits where it should be a nice smooth chamfer. This is where in the past people have changed the bearings and just caught the edge with a hammer or the socket they were using to bang it in. So I'm just going to use some wet and dry and clean this edge up because I don't want any of that to get into here to affect my bearing or my oil seal. So we'll quickly clean that, make that nice and smooth again, and then we'll put the new bearing in. Okay, so let's give this another, oh, don't drop that on there. Give this another little wipe out to make sure there's no debris left over from taking those edges off, because we don't want that going round in there. Get rid of all of that. Now, as before with the head bearings, just to give it a bit of a head start, we're going to put a smear of grease on the inside of there because we don't want it to bind up on anything. Like that. Now this is the new bearing. I got these from MSP in Europe. I'll put a link for all of this in the description. That is the part number there. If you can just about read that. That's the part number for this. That's the part number for the circlip, and the seal is, oh, I've ripped it in half. I'll put a link for all of it in there, so just so if you need to do this, you know where to get all the parts. Now, normally to put these in, you'd pop that in there and use a big socket to tap that down, but my biggest socket isn't quite big enough to go to the outer chase. So what I'm going to have to do is move it around like that as I do it to try and tap it down nice and square. So we're going to pop that in there first. So you'll know you're in because you'll be able to get to the circlip groove inside of here, which we now can. So the circlip, we're going to pop that in. There are 2 holes in the end of this. If I get that right in so you can see, there's 2 holes here, which normally a pair of circuit pliers would go into. Again, I don't have any, so we are going to just get the one end in first and just see if we can tease it in until it's all in the inner part of the wheel. What we may have to do is use a little punch or something similar just to give it a bit of assistance. That'll do. We're just going to tap that in. Like that. And then just tap it down nice and gently until it springs into its location. Like that. So that bearing is now in there. It still spins nice and freely, which is exactly what we want. The oil seal, we're going to fill this, pack that with grease, because we want to try and keep as much moisture out of there as we can. I know it's a bit inane really, because there's holes in the wheel for moisture to get into, but you know, every little helps. That just gets pushed straight into there. Like that. That's all the way down. And then the spacer for the axle sits in there like that. So that's that half done. Let's flip the wheel over, do the second half. I'm going to take that back out for now because we don't want to damage that. Let's put that there. Flip this out. Okay. Give that a little clean. If you're wondering what I'm using to clean this, by the way, I'm just using a bit of carb cleaner. I love using carb cleaner for stuff because, I mean, it's built for just getting through the toughest of rubbish and crap. So it laughs at this stuff, it just whips it straight out. It does, however, melt your gloves. Okay. So next bit to go in is this. This is your spacer which goes in between your 2 sets of bearings. We're just going to pop that in. That goes into that hole like that. So that's resting on top of the bearing we've just put in, which holds it nice and square. And then the second bearing we're going to put in exactly the same way. So a bit of grease to help it all go in. Now when we bang this one in, what's going to stop it is this inner chase hitting this spacer we've just put in. So we want to be careful we don't bang it in too hard because we don't want to damage anything. Okay, so that is in there. We can see our circlip ring, which is exactly what we want. put that in there. We're going to put a smear of grease on that because, again, every little helps. Grease it up. Grease, 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 grease. I'm just going to see if I can tap this down a little bit further to make room for that. Which I can. So that's in there properly now. That in there. And then circle it. And we'll just tap that back in. Right. Tap that in like that. Okay. Right, now all that wheel rim tape rubbish is gone. I hate that stuff. We are going to get the disc brakes on and then see about marrying it up to the forks for the first time, which will be pretty cool. Let's quickly zip them on. So we'll put this one back on first. Just get that on there. Okay, one. Before I put this one in, if I have a bit of a close-up look on these bolts, they've got this little shoulder on here. That is what locates your disc to stop it turning. When all five of them are in place, that's what centralizes it and keeps it nice and central on the wheel. Because otherwise, if I screw that into there, just loosely, you've got all this movement on here. So these, the shoulders on there are what keep it nice and in line. So when you do these up, it's important that you get those shoulders inside the holes of the brake disc. Otherwise, eventually, because you'll be clamping on there instead of holding it nice and central, if you put the brakes on, it could move it and then your brake disc could be flapping around because it's not done up. So it's just something to bear in mind to make sure that everything is, lined up properly. Because as well as having, some of these bikes have got so much going power, it's nice to know that they've got a decent bit of stopping power to go with it. Not that the GS has got much going power, but it's a thought that counts. Okay, let's get it on the bike. Okay, the last bit to go on to this before I say that the front end is officially done are these. Now these are 4-pot Nisin brake calipers. They are from a 1996 GSXR 750 Slingshot. So these have got 90mm centres on the bolts, same as what the ZX7 front end has got. They fit perfectly inside the wheel. I will need to replace the master cylinder from the handlebars because a standard one from the GS just doesn't have the capacity to power 2 calipers of this size. So I'll probably just get another one off of a Slingshot, to be fair, because, you know, it's built for it. I know it's going to work. We're going to quickly pop these on and then talk about what happens in the next one. Now these are a little bit bigger than the normal ZX7 calipers, so they are a bit of a squeeze to get in, particularly on these wavy discs. So there's a little bit of wiggling required to get them in. Once they're on and everything's all up and running and they're bled properly and everything, I think I'm going to be pretty safe in saying that with this front end and these brakes, this is probably the most stopping power ever fitted to a GS500. It's so overkill, it's just daft, really. But, you know, if you're going to do something, do it properly. Let's get these on and then see how we're looking. Okay, so this is where I wanted to finish the previous video. The front end is now built. We've got the ZX7 forks, yokes, I need to replace the top one, obviously, but it doesn't matter for now. We've got the wheel on, the bearings are all done, I've got discs, I've got brakes. I don't have brake lines, but I've got brakes. All in all, I think this is looking pretty smart now. Next time, we're going to start off by putting these wheels back on again, but with a slight difference. They're going to have some much chunkier tyres on. I'm looking forward to showing you those. I want to know what your opinions are on them. I'm not going to tell you what they are yet. We're going to keep it as a bit of a surprise. I've got them by the house ready to go on, so hopefully they'll be on pretty soon. If you have any suggestions or want to know anything particular for the future of this bike, then feel free to drop it in the comments, let me know. Fingers crossed, once the wheels are on with the tyres, we'll start cutting up the back end, because then I know how the bike's going to be sat and I can start figuring out what to cut and where. I've already got a rough idea in my mind of how I want it to look, bearing in mind this is meant to be sort of like Mad Max / Walking Dead, I've survived the apocalypse, let's go camping sort of bike. So yeah, there's going to be panniers, there's going to be extra fuel, things like that to bear in mind to put in. So when I rebuild the back, I'm going to have to think of a clever way to fit brackets and support bars and things to stop all that flapping around when you're riding. But other than that, I think we're making a decent bit of headway. Certainly a big change in the looks in a short amount of time. Yeah, so as I said, any comments, any issues, any thoughts or queries, chuck them in the comments. I shall do my best to answer them as quick as I can. All the parts I've used today will also be listed in the description underneath the video, so if you're doing this yourself or you've got a Kawasaki you're redoing, the parts I've used will be in there. Bearing in mind the company I've used is a European company, so now that we're not in Europe anymore, there may be an extra shipping charge to bring those parts into the country, because most of them come from Germany. I was lucky, I got the order in on the 23rd of December, so I just caught the boat with that. So yes, all the information I can give you will be in there. I hope you're enjoying the build so far and you're encouraged to come back for the next episode and all the future ones, because your support and hopefully helping you out do things is the main reason why I'm doing all of this. I hope you're staying safe. The the world as it is at the moment is a bit of a weird place, so don't forget to keep in touch with as many people as you can. I've said before, if you don't have anyone, drop me a line, get on my Facebook page, Instagram, anything. I don't mind replying back and just seeing how people are. I hope you're all managing okay. I know that in our house the homeschooling is a bit weird, because I'd totally forgotten how hard primary school maths is. Doing fractions, that's fun, but never mind. Every day's a learning day. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.